Hello and welcome to a new charter, number 23 of Azure Support Academy. In this episode number 17, we are going to give some insights. How is the connectivity when we use a proxy server like NGINX to Azure SQL Managed Instance Public Endpoint? My name is José Manuel Jurado. I am a escalation engineer working in Microsoft and subject matter expert in this technology. What is the agenda for today? Well, basically we are going to cover several points about how to install NGINX. We are going to review several points to configure the TCP Proxy Server. And finally, we are going to test the connection using Azure SQL Managed Instance Public Endpoint. Well, let's get started. Basically, the first things that we need to perform is to install the tool, right? So the idea is to go to the URL to this URL, choose the stable versions that we have of this tool. Once we have downloaded this tool, basically it's going to open the folder that we have this file and extract the file, the content of this file in the folder that you need in this case, or you choose in this case. Basically, this is the option. Once you run this application, it's going to install as a services. And we are going to pay several attentions about one specific folder that is called conf, that contains here all the configuration for this tool. And also we are going to review the folder that is called logs, that contains when we run the application, the information about the different states or process or definitions, etc. that we have for this tool. Well, let's try to run the application. Let's try to configure the application. First of all, the first thing that we need to modify is the file that we have, the configuration. As we mentioned before, we have this file that is called NGINX conf that contains the configuration of the file of this application. In this configuration, basically, I need to add this text. This text means that I'm going to create a new stream. I'm going to define that my server JM, when I specified the port 3342, it's automatically is going to bypass the connection to this server. Okay, so if I try to run the connections right now, second. Okay, I'm going to click connect. And I'm going to receive this message. What is this message? Well, this message means that most probably this server has not was not found in my DNS. So for the reason, I'm going to run the ping command against this server, and as you can see here, most probably it's not possible to use. Of course, that in this situation, one thing that we could do is to change or to add this server in our domain, for example, or we could use the name of my machine that I have installed NGINX, or I could use, for example, localhost. If I run localhost, for example, or if I use delete gm, for example, gm jurado, delete m, I'm going to have the same, right? So for the reason, if I specify here localhost, I'm going to save the file here. I'm going to check first the configuration if I did correctly. The configuration, it's fine. The connection, the configuration file is success. If we have any problem, we are going to see fail. For example, if I type here, remove this semicolon, if I run again -t, we are going to have one expected error, okay, and we are going to have fail. Okay, so I'm going to revert back the modification, save the file, check the syntax, and also I'm going to start the application again. So right now the resolution is fine, so I could use localhost. If I try 3342, right now the resolution is fine, but we received the error message about there is not possible to use .database.windows.net. That means that when NGINX send this information using the TCP Proxy Server, when the gateway of the public endpoint of managed instance, they need to obtain the rest of the file that you know, that is .database.windows.net, right? So even, for example, if I specified a trust server certificate, I'm not able to connect, and I'm going to receive this message. So that means that we need to add .database.windows.net in the name of the server. So for the reason, one thing that we could start again, okay, is, for example, specify again my server, for example, JM. As we mentioned, right now we don't have. Second, let me check if we have this server somewhere. Okay, this server doesn't exist, and I'm going to modify one file in the host because I don't have any DNS with me right now, and I'm going to add the following line in the file that you could find, that you could specify internal host name. Is in the host file that you could find in C Windows System 32 drivers ADC. So my idea is define here that right now my server jm.database.windows.net is going to let's say to resolve inside of my of this node, is this Windows Azure machine. If I run right now this one, they report, hey, the server is this IP, is perfect, and as this IP is the IP that NSG is listening the port, basically I need to specify this name. 1 second. Is my server. 1 second, I forgot. It's my server.database.windows.net. Yep. Second, I save the file. Check the syntax first. Success. Let's try to run the application. Let's try to specify the idea, and also 3342. I click connect, and I'm still facing the same problem, okay? Because I try to connect to the my server jm.database.windows.net. What that mean? That mean that even this server, when SQL Server, when the endpoint of the gateway try to receive these instructions, they for this port they say, hey, this server doesn't exist in my environment. So for the reason, my main thought is, well, most probably, as my server, the name of my server is JN Jurado Manage, I'm going to modify this for this name. So my main idea is I will like to use the name of GM Manage, but including .database.windows.net. So I'm going to do this. Sorry, I need to save the configuration. Configuration is fine. Start. Let's try with this. And 3340. So right now the main idea is using this name. Also there is no need to use .database.windows.net, okay, but it's possible, but it's other idea. So for example, I'm going to connect and voila, we have the data. Okay, so I'm connecting even using a different name. So even what happened, for example, as you can see here right now, I'm connecting this database with the domain database.windows.net. Even, for example, what happened if I try to use my own domain? Let's try, for example, here, let's try to specify Microsoft.com. First of all, let's try to verify if we have something here. Right now it doesn't exist, so it's great. So let's try to modify it in the local host. Of course, that you could use your own DNS. So it's not. It's just only one example that I have here. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to save the file. Okay. I'm going to save the file to configure again. Check the syntax. Syntax is fine. Run the service and try to connect again. Using my own domain with the port 3342, and I'm going to specify the password. And also I'm going to remove the trust server certificate or uncheck the trust certificate, because I would like to show you another problem. Is because SQL managed instance and as always SQL Server as well is going to do is going to encrypt the data using the certificate .database.windows.net. Okay, so for the reason when you have this type of message means that when I specified Microsoft.com, when we try to encrypt the data, the client say, hey, doesn't match right now the certificate with the domain, so I'm going to raise this error. Of course, we could bypass this error using trust server certificate, okay, and we are going to connect. It's very important, don't do this, because at the end we are using different domain, and trust the server certificates is not a good idea, but it's possible. Okay. So let's try to verify other things about the connections. For example, using other situation. What happened, for example, that we have a filers. For example, here it's when we are using the Windows Defender. So right now, I'm going to show you several examples what could be the main errors connecting to the database. So I'm going to use Windows Defender Firewall. Okay, the main idea is to block the connectivity. Okay, I'm going to modify the rules at bound. Okay, so I have two main rules. The first main rule is 1433, another is 11,000 to 12,000. So I'm going to block the connections as a bound, so no one will be able to connect to the port 3422, sorry, to the port 1433, but in this case I'm going to modify it because the idea is to modify it because I'm going to connect to the port 3422 of the public endpoint of managed instance. So I'm going to modify it here is 3342. I'm going to apply the modification of the rule. Okay, so I'm going to disable. Let me check if everything is fine. 3342 protocol, perfect. So let's try to enable the rule, and I'm going to try to connect. So if I try to connect using something is preventing the access to this port, right? We are going to have different error message. In this case, is for example, the specified network name is no longer available. Okay, so in order to understand what is happening, also one thing that I would like to show you is, for example, to use the Microsoft Network Monitor or other tool to see what is the communications between different services. So when I try to connect to the server, most probably we are going to have here several informations about it. For example, let me stop the rule. Second, this is not the rule that I want. Yeah, it's this one. I'm going to disable the rule. I'm going to connect again. So right now, as you can see here right now, 1 second, so waiting for the yes, we have here how the connection works. As you can see, we have the application NGINX. So right now, when I try to connect to the server that I have here, it's going to use the proxy server and use the port 3342, right? Is my home server that is connecting to the database. For example, if I use SQL Server Management Studio, right now I'm not able to see any connectivity because the connectivity will be established from the for the NGINX. Also, if I run, for example, select start from sysdm exec connections, we are going to see somewhere here that it's this one. Yeah. For example, the IP address of my machine, the node that I have installed NGINX. So for the reason it's very important to understand how works this element, because in terms of connectivity, as you can see here is how NSG is working and send the data to the SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, because right now is the tool that is sending the data, okay, and we have just only one IP. For the reason, as you could see, multiple things we could use as a VPN, because just only this IP will be able to connect. Other service that we have about the proxy servers, it's, for example, to change the port. So right now I modified the instructions. I'm going to use the port 9023 to connect to the port 3342. So I'm going to save the file. I'm going to check the syntax again. So syntax is correct. I'm going to run the query and I'm going to connect again to this server. Right? I'm going to type again my password. Oh, sorry. So if I specify the connection, as you could see here, I'm able to connect using a different port that we have, right? Also, if we run, I think that is no, it's not running, but let's start from the beginning also, because in the network traces, let me disconnect and connect again. You could see how NGINX is working. It's working with the port. 1 second is here with the port number. 1 second is somewhere here and here. Yeah, 3342. For example, this is the connectivity that we have using the port 3342, but SQL Server that is here, just only it's working, doing another stuff about it, right? So for the reason it's very important about all these types of things, because also several customers could use this to let's say to hide the port 1433 and use another port. Thanks for attending this session. If you have any questions or feedback, please don't hesitate to contact this email, jmjurado@microsoft.com.